Hi, Sean.
Hey Barry, how are you doing?
Good.
Good. I can't see you yet. Oh, there you are. How's it going?
Good.
Good, good. Just make sure this read works. All right. Works.
Sounded good.
Thanks. Who's that? Adam?
I think
Hey
Adam's
there, Adam.
about to join us.
All right, cool. Awesome. Oh, I better open that PDF.
Hi, Barry. It's
Hi,
me,
Adam.
Joel. No, it's me, Joel. Hi.
Hi, Joel.
I finally figured out what unmute and mute means. Exactly the opposite of what I thought.
Yeah, well, nice you can adapt.
Thank you.
Hey, Joel.
Hi, Sean.
How you doing?
I'm in E flat instrument keys. That's what I'm in.
I see your background. It looks like you're in the garden or something.
Yes, yes. I decided that I would go and do this outside in our garden. We grow things rather large in Carmel, so. And look, I don't have on my pajamas this time, you know.
You know, you got to put real clothes on every once in a while just to
I guess so.
kind of get the feeling like we're back in reality, you know.
Yeah, I want to thank you for doing this again, though. Oh,
Oh, no
also,
problem.
I never know if my emails go through to you, but I've discovered on YouTube about 3 sites where they show you the music for modern songs, and they'll even have a thing that shows you where you are in the music, and then some of them it's music -1, you, and others it's the
Right.
whole thing, and you get to play along if you have the
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Um, are you talking about the Michael Lowenstern videos?
It might be him. That sounds familiar. There's 2 or 3 of them that are doing it.
Yeah.
Can I look at you? Am I looking at you on the screen, or to me?
Me?
I'm looking off to the left. My
Yeah, no.
stage left.
I mean, if you look right in your camera, you'll probably be looking right at me, but
I think I don't even know where my camera is anymore. Okay.
It's whatever has the blue dot on it.
Oh yeah. Okay. Great. I don't see a blue dot, so obviously I'm not. I'm a figment of everyone's imagination. Yay!
Now we can see you, Joel. It's
Oh,
on.
see, Barry comes dead center. That's great. Wow. Um, yeah. So the only thing I wanted to end up with is, so doing these has just wrecked my practice schedule. Instead of long tones and scales and then getting to something I wanted to learn and all that, I just play a few long tones and then boom, go right into these YouTube videos. So they got them in B flat too. I might send them some to Barry too, see if he likes them.
Yeah, cool. Might as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good to keep in touch.
Yeah.
So now I understand. I transposed a lot of the scales you sent us for E
cool.
flat saxophone, and now I understand why you guys are no sharps, no flats. Ken next to me on the B flat trumpet is 1 sharp, or 2 sharps rather, 2 sharps, and I'm 3 sharps. It all makes sense
Right.
now.
Right. Cool. Good.
I like it when the math lines up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super important. Hey, Lenny. See, Lenny's joined us.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I got in some horn practice today, and I've been I hauled out my sewing machine, and I've been making face masks.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Yeah, well, I told my brother in Seattle I'd try to send him one, so I've only made 2 so far, so I'm not very skilled. But I have a sewing machine that I haven't used in about 10 years, so this was a good reason for me to get it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Lenny,
Yeah.
have you seen, and this is not a joke, Jeff Cohn on his Facebook, but I can send it to everybody, put out a video of how to make face masks from keepas. Very easy to do and very effective. Wow. So maybe I'll send it out to all of us. When I do, it's not a joke. It's real. I've made 2 or 3 of these now.
Interesting. Well, I got a pattern from the New York Times style section, and I've seen a bunch of different patterns floating around the internet. My brother sent me some. This one I actually tried out today. I went to Kroger, and about 3/4 of the people in the Kroger were actually wearing face masks. I was surprised. So it was fine. It actually was fairly comfortable. I made it out of an old Pinpoint Oxford shirt, so it was pretty tight weave. So anyway, that was my adventure today, aside from practicing.
Nice. Oh, cool. Sounds like most of you practiced today. That's cool. So you don't even need
scales and chords, minor chords and sevenths.
Nice. Oh, you guys will be all ready for next week then.
Uh-oh.
Next week will be fun.
Supposed to say the back row will, you know. right, Adam?
Right? More alto.
We'll follow the bass clarinet.
That sounds good. I see Carol's here again tonight. Hi, Carol. Cool. All right. Well, it's 6 o'clock. I guess we can get started now. And as other people join us, we can bring them in on the conversation. So tonight I thought we'd talk about practice strategies. Again, I based each week's topic on the responses that I got from the klezmer band members. And one of the things that was brought up was effective strategies for practicing. So, and I'm sure you all practice. I mean, everybody kind of has an idea of how to practice. But can you guys all see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what I've put together is some strategies that I use. And the first thing I want to talk about is the difference between practicing for improvement versus playing for pleasure, because these are 2 different things and they're both important. So the first thing, practicing for improvement, is when you have structured practice time with your instrument in which you set specific goals for yourself and you work systematically to achieve those goals. Playing for pleasure, on the other hand, is playing through things that you enjoy alone or with others for the purpose of having fun. And those definitions are just things that I came up with. So if you have a better definition or want to weigh in on that, I'm totally open. So hopefully your rehearsals and practice sessions will involve a little bit of both of these. So what the topics I'm going to cover tonight are do not start at the beginning, break it down, fix the pieces and put them back together again, and structure your practice time. Those are the 3 big overarching concepts for tonight. And I put a nice little picture of the klezmer band on there.
Oh, thank you.
So, okay, any questions so far? Great, we're moving on. Okay, first thing is do not start at the beginning.
Genesis.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, good. Everyone's still laughing at my jokes. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Thank you. I said do not start at the beginning. I picture Genesis. Brienne's back here hiding in the background. Hi.
Hi, Brian.
Okay, so for practicing, we do not want to start at the beginning. But hardly ever would you start at the beginning. Instead, we're going to identify and circle the tough parts in our music. And we can do that by just looking through it at the beginning, picking the tough stuff and circling it. Or in rehearsals, you get to a spot and you're like, ooh, that's tough, circle it. Okay? That's really the beginning. So you're going to start at those hard spots when you go to practice. If you're practicing and you make a mistake, you're going to stop. Don't just keep playing. You're going to go back and you're going to start just before the mistake, and you're going to repeat that section. And if there's still a mistake, do it again, but slow it down, okay? I highly recommend using a metronome. So I can demonstrate some of this for you. Let's start with that. I'll demonstrate that. So if you make a mistake, stop, restart right before it, slow it down with a metronome. So I've got some music here. And this is music I haven't looked at in a really, really long time. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks hard.
It looks hard. Yeah, it is hard. It's hard stuff. This is one time when I was in high school, I went and bought this book. Here it is. Ironically, it was like at an IRC Music, one of those little guitar shops. I have no idea why they had this book there, but I bought it. And I was trying to find really hard music. And so I bought this book, and I'm hearing an echo on there. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah,
No,
I think you need to mute yourself.
Yes, we could hear the echo.
Okay, everybody mute yourself and then unmute yourself when you want to talk. How about that? Okay, so I bought this at a guitar store, and I remember the guitar guy looking through the book when I was trying to check out, and he looks at it and he goes, "Isn't this a bit hard for you to play?
Yeah.
Hard for you?" And I was like, "No, I'll show him." But of course, it was way too hard for me to play. I mean, the guy was absolutely right, but I decided that I was definitely going to figure it out on my own. So I turned my metronome on as slow as I could, and I'll talk more about sight reading to you in a couple weeks when we get to the sight reading time. But basically, I went through the same kind of process that I'm going to show you right now. So there's some hard stuff here. The section I'm going to play right here is where it says moderato. So this section right here. And I'm going to play through that section. And I'm sure I'll mess up. So when I mess up, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to go over that section again. So pick a metronome tempo. Maybe a little bit faster just so I definitely make a mistake. You let those dogs in so they stop scratching the door. All right. All right, so I'm gonna start here. All right, I made a little mistake there, so I'm gonna stop. Ah, that was too slow. Now I'm going to put it into context. I'm going to go back a couple notes and put that into context. Okay, that was good. Now I'm going to add a few measures after, a few notes afterwards. All right, now I'm going to do the whole phrase. So I'm going to go back a measure. I'm going to go back 2 measures and put that whole thing into context. So does that make sense? What I did there? And did you see how I cleaned it up pretty quickly?
Mm-hmm.
By stopping, fixing the little spot. And now that takes me to my next point that I want to talk to you about here. I made a mistake. I stopped. I went back. I started just before it. I repeated it. If there's still a mistake, do it again, but slow it down. My tempo was okay. I found this thing about the tempo here, I'll get to in just a second, okay? Let's go right here. I'll come back to the tempo. Usually when we make a mistake, it's between 2 notes, all right? So we're gonna break it down, we're gonna fix the pieces, and then we're gonna put them back together again. That process I just went through, I found the 2 notes that were giving me the issue. And then right here, I figured out the 2 notes. So okay. I didn't go through exactly the process in the order that I wanted to say it, so I apologize for that. But let's look at this one right here. After you get comfortable going between the 2 notes, put it into rhythm, which I already had it in rhythm. Add the few notes before that to get used to going into it. Then add the few notes after it to get used to moving out of it. And finally put it into context by playing the entire phrase in which the issue is contained. So that's the process that I just went through there with that. This thing about the metronome. So everything that you play, for every single thing that you play, there is a sweet spot, okay? There is a tempo that you can play it perfectly at. And so you just have to find what that tempo is. So if I'm looking at, let's say, on the same piece, I'm gonna look at this measure right here. This looks really hard, doesn't it? That is a lot of black ink. And that is kind of terrifying. So, but I know that there is a tempo that I can play that at. Maybe not at the written tempo, but there is a tempo I can play that at. So let's see if we can find what that tempo is. So maybe I can play it at this tempo. Right? Now, maybe I can't play it at that tempo. If not, then I'm going to slow it down.
It stopped for me. I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, we're having the same problems too. Looks like Shawn got kind of suspended animation.
Yeah, she wasn't moving either.
Looks like she's missing too. Did she get kicked off?
She's probably in the process of restarting.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Hi, Rick.
Yeah,
Let's talk
Well-
about ourselves.
bada boom.
Evening, Susan.
You can unmute. Ah,
Hello.
It's like Sean's back.
John's back.
is that, or was that Susan?
No, that's me. That's Susan. That's not Sean.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Myrna.
Where are you?
I'm in Florida. My kids won't let us come back. Say it's too dangerous. No, they say it's too dangerous in Marion County.
Well,
They're
yeah,
wrong.
it doesn't look great.
I'd like to come back, but they won't let me.
Welcome back, Sean.
Hey, thanks. I just thought I'd come join you again. That's
Oh,
okay.
good.
Sorry,
Can you
my
hear me?
internet connection is not great here. It's been a challenge every day, so I'm sorry about that.
Join the club. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so it's been really tough internet-wise, but thanks for bearing with me. So did you hear anything that I said?
Nope.
First of it,
Yeah, just about the two notes. You correct the two notes, and then
move
you're
on.
expanding it on either side of that, and then playing the entire phrase at
Yes.
tempo.
Okay. All right, that was like 10 minutes ago, right?
Well, that's all I can remember.
Thereabouts.
5 minutes.
Okay, all right. So did I show you this thing here? Did you guys
Yes.
see this thing?
Yes, we saw that.
Did I play some of that for you?
Yes,
You
you did.
did.
And did I start speeding up the tempo on it?
No.
No, actually, I didn't hear you play the hard part yet.
Which hard part?
He's just
At
testing
the
you.
top of the piece,
At the very beginning?
near the beginning.
Which spot? Tell me when I get there.
There.
Wherever
What?
you started, we didn't hear it.
I started right here.
Okay, we didn't hear that part.
Okay. Well, let me show you what I did. I practiced it already, so that's not really fair, but all right. So I'm gonna pick a tempo, and I'm gonna find a tempo that I can play it at. Okay.
Yes.
So just for fun, I'm gonna start it too fast, and let's see. I'm gonna start it at 112, where I probably can't play it. Well, let's go faster. So here, I'll probably mess it up at this tempo, okay? That's the goal.
Okay.
My goal right now is to mess it up. Okay, I need to go faster. Hold on. That was just a warm-up. Let me try a different measure. How about that?
Anything you want. It's your class.
What's that?
Your class. Do what you want.
Oh, okay. I'll just do the same. I don't know. I'll just do the same measure faster. Okay, I definitely made a mistake in there, so that's helpful. So I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to slow it down to like right here. And I'm going to, so I was at 136. I jumped it down to 120. And I'm going to go up 4 clicks at a time from 120. Okay, so 120 hopefully is the tempo I can play it perfectly at. If not, I'll slow it down slower. Okay, that was good. So I'm gonna go 4 more clicks. So 124. Four more clicks. Four more clicks. Now I'm at 132. Now 136. So now I played it correctly, but I couldn't do it at 136 2 minutes ago. But that's the process. You back it down, you find the tempo you can play it at, which might be 60. Who cares? It might be so insultingly slow, but that's okay. Bump it way down, find that tempo you can play it perfectly at, and then systematically go 4 clicks at a time until you get to your goal tempo. You might get to a breaking point. You're like, I can't do it. Bump it back down. Get really good at that tempo you can do it at, and then bump it 4 clicks up. The reason that a lot of people play sloppy is because they try to go too fast too soon. My teacher always told me, and still says this, the faster you want to play, the slower you need to practice. He still says that to this day. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, let me share the screen one more time here. All right, so we're not starting at the beginning. We're going to the hard stuff. We're starting there. If you make a mistake, stop, go back and start right before it. Use a metronome to find the tempo at which you can play it perfectly. Do it a few times at that tempo, then speed it up 4 clicks at a time. So I say here, play it 3 times in a row perfectly before you speed it up 4 clicks at a time. I think that's a good starting point. You may not need 3 times on each tempo. You might not have time for that, but that's a good starting process. Okay. And I like to write in my final tempo and the date in my music, just in the margin. Okay. All right. The next thing that we kind of already got into is breaking it down, fixing the pieces, and putting it back together again. So, I like to think about it like if something breaks on you, and I put the picture in here of the lawnmower, which I've never fixed the lawnmower, but what's that?
You will, as a new homeowner, you will.
Yeah, well,
I highly recommend choke cleaner. Keep some of that on hand. Don't light any matches when you use it, though.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you for the very good advice. There's a lot of pieces here to the lawnmower, as you can see. And if I said, gosh, it looks like something's wrong with my mower, with the motor on my lawnmower, you wouldn't just say, well, just keep pushing it on the lawn and eventually it'll work better. Like that seems like it might be bad advice. But for some reason, we do that in music. Well, you know what? I know I'm making a mistake here. I know that I'm messing up, but I'm just going to keep playing it over and over, and eventually I'll be better at it. I don't think that practice makes us perfect. I think that perfect practice makes us perfect.
Bearable.
What's that?
Makes us bearable.
Yeah, otherwise we're just doing this. We just keep making the same mistake over and over again.
Right. And
So
it's
just
magical
playing.
thinking.
Exactly. So just playing through the same thing over and over, I don't think fixes anything for us. We really have to be systematic about this. We have to take it apart, fix the pieces, and put it back together again. So again, we find those 2 notes that the issue is probably happening between. We isolate that. We fix that little piece, and then we put it back together again. I say here to pay attention when you're making a mistake. If there's a mistake just between 2 notes, keep your fingers and hands close to the instrument. Make sure that you're not maintaining too much tension, or that you're not moving too far from the instrument, which can always cause issues between 2 notes. But after you get comfortable going between the 2 notes, put it in rhythm, keep it under tempo if you need to, and then add a few notes before and after, which I showed you a minute ago. And then you can work up the tempo once you get it there, following the first step. Any questions about any of that so far?
Makes
No
sense.
questions? Okay, good.
No, I can recall back when Janice had the band, we were doing something for, we were doing a Shabbat service, part of that Shabbat, canned Shabbat service.
Mhm.
And some of the arrangements in there were just tough. And I can remember, even for percussion, there was a percussion part, and I can remember just going down in my basement and closing all the doors, and playing like 4 bars over and over and over again, and just, you know, like you said, breaking it down to 2 notes, and then 4 strokes, and then 8 strokes, and then 8 strokes faster and faster and faster, and it took a long time. The only thing that kept me doing it is I was starting to get it, and you know, that was the way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure some of you have used some of these techniques already in your practicing, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Maybe. All right. Well, maybe not. Whatever. Okay.
You said
And
yes.
okay, good. We got at least one yes. And let's see what else is on here. The next thing is structure your practice time. So you want to be consistent with your location of practicing if possible. If you can find one spot, maybe in your home, right now definitely in your home, pick a quiet location that's well lit, allows for good posture, allows you to focus without interruption if possible, and hopefully has a music stand. There's a lot of studies that have been done that say that your practicing will be more effective if you have a good practice location. And I say try to get into a routine where you can practice every day, preferably around the same time every day. The amount of time that you practice, to me, my personal opinion, not as important as having consistency in doing it regularly. A lot of people ask me, how long should I be practicing? I get this all the time when I'm teaching private lessons. The parents will say, well, how long should Sally be practicing for? I've never had a student named Sally, I don't think, but you know, they'll say how long, and it doesn't matter to me. They're like, well, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. I don't like to require a certain amount of time because you might not need a lot of time, and then you're just going to waste time. Sometimes my most productive practice sessions are the shortest ones because I go in with a specific goal and I accomplish that one specific goal, and that's all the time I have. So, so I don't think an amount of time. I think it's doing it all the time. And brass players, you guys know, you can't be off the horn for several days or else you're going to lose your chops.
Right, right.
It's all about consistency.
There's some German trumpet teacher was quoted. I don't remember the guy's name, but his famous quote was, "A day without practice is like committing suicide."
Well, that's pretty extreme.
Well, maybe not that severe.
Yeah, I guess if you're a brass player, but anyway, I don't think it's that deep, but you know, consistency. All right, so let's go back to my amazing, engaging handout here. So consistency, and then what are you going to practice? You need to plan a practice routine, okay? So you're efficient, focused, and can still have fun. I don't know about you guys, but I would guess that you're probably busy and you don't have a lot of time to practice. Maybe you do now, but I like to make my practice sessions very efficient and focused. So here's a sample practice routine. This is one that I've used for many practice sessions. I start with some long tones. That could be those embouchure endurance exercises that you guys have. The
Sure.
ones that I made, or whatever long tone exercises that you like to do. Then scales. That's what I like to do, and I'll pick a tempo. Maybe I'm doing them at 120. Maybe I'm trying them slower or faster. Maybe I'm doing major scales. Maybe I'm doing minor scales. Maybe I'm doing mixolydian modes. Maybe I'm practicing my Frege scales. You've got all kinds of scales you can practice. And then scale patterns. What I mean by this is like maybe you're doing it in thirds, you know, so for example, we've got the major scales. But then scale pattern might be like. Or something like this. And then you've got sight reading etudes. This is something for me that is just so fun and important to do. Something we'll talk about in the sight reading seminar is that, yes, sight reading more often does make you better at sight reading. And I found that if you will actually be good at it really quickly. So it's something I always do with a metronome, and I try to find hard stuff to sight read or stuff that I haven't played in a long time. Maybe some band music that I played 10 years ago or something. You can bring that out and sight read it again. And I can sight read jazz etudes or classical etudes or even repertoire that I haven't started working on yet. That all counts. And then repertoire here, what I usually mean by that is like solos for the instrument, like a clarinet concerto that I'm working on, or a piece for a band that we're gonna be performing, so I'm really practicing it. It's something I'm not sight reading, but I'm getting into and practicing it with that structured practicing where I'm trying to break it down and take it apart and put it back together.
I heard, Shawn,
Yeah.
Speaking of repertoire, the other day I was listening to WICR and I heard, I forget the performer, it was a clarinetist playing the Aaron Copland clarinet concerto, and
Yeah.
that sounded really hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. It's a beautiful piece,
Yeah.
some of the most beautiful writing ever written for the clarinet, and also at the same time super jazzy and fun.
Yeah, part of it sounded very French, modern French, and then when
Mhm.
it jazz, it was very different. Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
hear it very often, but it was a beautiful piece.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah, I actually have a student that's performing the first part of that tomorrow on a recital. We're doing a recital using like Zoom, but it's called WebEx. And so each student they have the accompaniment like recorded that they're playing with, and each student will perform. Yeah. She's performing that slow part at the beginning. That's so like ethereal and French sounding. Anyway, yeah, that's a great piece. I don't know why you brought that up, but I love that piece.
Why do you use WebEx instead?
That's just what the Marian University uses. So it's integrated into our Canvas program where all the classes post all their materials.
Yeah.
So
I've used it in the corporate world when I was in the corporate world, and it's much better than Zoom in terms of performance, I've noticed, or maybe it's just the internet connection was faster. Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know. I kind of like Zoom. I don't know. I get a better picture on Zoom, it seems, than I typically do on WebEx, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Moving on.
Moving on.
Repertoire. Yes, you can pick any repertoire. And I think that's where if you have a private teacher, that can be really helpful because they can help you learn some new repertoire that you're not familiar with, and get a hold of some music that you can learn. And then jamming for fun. This is that part that's playing for pleasure. Okay? Yep. This can be you playing duets with somebody at your house. This can be you using a cappella to play duets with yourself. This can be you just improvising or playing a song that you just love to play, your favorite klezmer tune from Klezmer Band that you just love playing it because you like the way it sounds and it makes you happy and it makes you feel good. That's jamming for fun. You've got to remember to include playing for fun as part of your practice routine. I think we have to be careful when it comes to practicing and all this structured practicing because sometimes we can forget what brought us to playing music in the first place, and that is that we love music and we're having fun. And if everything just becomes work, 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 and it's just a chore, it's not fun anymore. So you got to keep having fun with it. That's real important to remember.
It's called performing. It's the fun part.
Yeah, performing is fun, but we're not getting a lot of that right now, are we?
No, nobody is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do a virtual concert online. That's about it. Maybe a Facebook stream. So,
But
like I said, it's not always. It doesn't matter how much time you spend for each of those activities. Some days you may want to spend more or less time on each activity. I always recommend using a metronome. If your face gets tired or if you get bored, take a break. Don't burn yourself out physically or mentally. It's perfectly okay to break up your daily practicing into a few sessions. And really, most teachers recommend that. You don't need to do all of these things in one practice session. Maybe in the morning you just do long tones and scales and then you put it away, or you just do long tones, put it away. Come back after lunch, do some of this stuff, put it away. Come back in the evening. I mean, you've got all the time right now. If you're home, you know, maybe you can break this up over the course of a day. It's not necessary to do it all. And here I just wanted to bring back some happy memories. Some happier times here.
Hey, what a
Can
bunch.
you
look
email
great.
that picture to all of us?
What's that?
Can you email that picture to all of us? That's a
Oh
great.
yeah, sure. I'd be happy to.
Did
I think
everybody?
I'm even in it.
Hi, Rick.
Hi,
Yeah, hi Rick.
I finally figured out how to work my microphone.
Oh, good for you.
Lenny, I'm afraid that banana costume is just going to be a required part of every klezmer concert.
Every klezmer concert.
Well, I was hoping it wouldn't be my signature look.
It's striking. Let's put it that way.
Wasn't there an
Striking,
old
there you
like
go.
Jimmy Durante song about you got to be the top banana?
I think there was, yeah. I'm sure there's a Wikipedia article on it somewhere.
Yeah, you kind of brought that on yourself, Lenny.
Yes, yeah, agreed.
Well,
Was horn
that's
player and source of potassium.
Great,
That's funny.
great.
I don't want to eat him though.
great.
If we eat him, he can't play.
Well, does anybody
can I-
have any? Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I wanted to make a comment. It was in the beginning, but we were going so well, I didn't want to stop us and everything.
Sure.
But a pleasant memory and a nice byproduct of practicing the way that you told us. I did something like that. I think it probably was a couple of years ago in klezmer.
Uh-huh.
And we had a particularly tough part. At least it was for me. I was on the tenor saxophone. It's hard to go faster on that one. And so I followed something like the system you're doing. So the nice byproduct was I got muscle memory in my fingers
Yes.
to the point where I could play that piece and it's like your fingers are doing it and your brain's not telling it what to do. It was kind of a nice experience. So that is also a nice byproduct of the beginning when you're telling us to slow down, find your two notes, play it slow, find the pace you can do it at, go back a couple, go through it. And as I said, a weird experience when my brain can be somewhere else and my fingers are playing the part. So.
Yeah, and there's some really good writings about that exact idea where they're talking about mindless practicing, and it's okay, and it's actually preferred. You want to get into this like Zen mode where you're not thinking about what you're doing anymore. Yeah, you're like thinking about, what groceries you need or, some TV show you just watched or something. And you're not thinking about what your fingers are doing anymore. You're mindless. And that is a really good thing. You get it in muscle memory. And here's another thing I didn't put in here, but I probably should have, besides what you're pointing out. And I'm really glad you brought that up. The other thing is that when you go to sleep at night, if you practice right before you go to sleep and you go to sleep, when you're sleeping, your brain kind of sorts out the information you need to keep and the information that it needs to throw away. You can't obviously remember everything all the time, right? So it's got to get rid of some of the stuff. But if you practice right before you go to sleep, your brain has a really good chance of like saying, okay, this is important. We should keep this. And I find when I do that before I go to sleep, the next day I come back and I practice and I seem to know it better than I did even the night before. So this is another reason I tell my students, you can't cram practice. You can't not practice all week and then show up for your lesson and practice a half hour before your lesson, you know, and think that
Who would
it's
do
gonna-
that? Who would do that?
You
Sounds like
know,
my violin
I
lesson.
hear it happens.
none of my students, but you know, other people's students.
Friends, yeah, friends have told you that.
I know people that know people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it's really helpful to practice the night before, right before you go to bed. Practice, go to sleep.
Well, that's interesting. Maybe it depends too if you're a night person, because I'm a morning person and I cannot. I mean, I can play in the evening if I have to, if I have a rehearsal or something, but I don't have a productive practice session in the evening. For me, I find it if I can, you know, unless sometimes I have to put my practice mute in because I'm in an apartment now for my horn. But I like to warm up in the morning for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then have a second practice session later in the day. For French horn players in particular, that's very helpful. But probably for brass players, other brass players might find it helpful too, to have an initial warm up and work on some arpeggios or lip slurs or long tones or scales, and then have a more in-depth practice session later in the day. But, you know, things work differently for different people.
Yeah, Lenny, no, I think
French
that's a
horn,
great point.
like
And
this?
what's that?
French horn like this?
Oh, I think
Yeah, it kind of looks like it.
It is like it is.
Yeah, I just saw part of the case. Wow.
My son's French horn. My son's French horn.
Okay, I'm impressed.
It's sitting here. He's sitting there for weeks. Not moving.
I have an
He's out of school for the
oddball.
year, so he's done with it till next fall.
Yeah, let me just real quick comment on what Lenny said here, Myrna, and then I want to get what Myrna wants to say. But Lenny, I'm a lot like that too, actually. I'm way more productive in the mornings than the evenings. I always think I'm going to be productive in the evenings, but then I never am. So one thing that I do is I think about my practicing. So I pretend like I'm practicing by just thinking about it. And I can practice. Sometimes I'll find myself, I wake up in the middle of the night oftentimes, and I'll realize I'm practicing while I'm sleeping. Now, no, my clarinet's not laying next to me. I'm not practicing. I'm just thinking I'm practicing. I tell my students, you can practice your scales when you're in math class not paying attention. And you can practice. But it's true. I mean, you can practice all your fingerings and whatever you need to practice on a pencil. Right? And even without something in your hands, your fingers know where those keys are. You can practice. And even if you're not actually moving, just thinking about the finger movements is practicing as well. If I told you all to sing this note, okay, don't do it yet. But if I said, ah, I want you to sing that. Ready? 1, 2, ready? Stop. Right before you sang that note, this got ready to sing it, right? This formed the note you were about to sing. It's the same thing. Your body, the same way that you start to feel your fingers move to the notes, even when you're not moving your fingers. It's a way of practicing without practicing physically. Mental practicing. You can accomplish almost just as much. And there are studies that have suggested that this is a real thing.
Okay, I had a thought.
Yeah, Myrna.
This is not a very worthwhile thought, but it seems like with all of the technology these days, it would be so cool if we could play together on the internet.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I don't suppose there's anything like that, or if there is, it would be extremely expensive. Zoom isn't quite that sophisticated, but
yeah. So what we can do is we can use a cappella to do that. Now, it wouldn't be a live performance. It would be each person records their part, but we can put it all together using a cappella. Do you guys all have an Apple product of some sort?
No.
iPad, yes.
an iPhone.
No.
iPhone or iPad?
don't.
I think acapella has to use some sort of Apple product. I think you have to use some sort of Apple product to download the app.
Sean?
What's that? Yeah.
We're doing that with all of our bands in the villages.
Yeah.
Through Zoom, but we have a pre-recorded piece of music that's already been recorded, and the conductor puts that on, and we play. He conducts it, and we play along with the pre-recorded music. I don't know if there's pre-recorded music on for the numbers that we've played for klezmer, but I would imagine there probably is. And we have a whole concert that we're practicing for, but we can't hear each other because when you all play at once, it sounds awful. But we play, and then we have comments afterwards, and he goes back and makes sure that we're aware of certain markings and intonations, and it's worked pretty well. It's really keeping people practicing and doing what we will eventually do as a concert. But we have that to practice with anyway, to go home with. Everything is whatever they find that's our music, it's been played by somebody, and they send it to us so we can listen. But when we play as a group, we get together, and I find it pretty motivating to see everybody and talk about it. And we go for 2 hours doing that.
Yeah. I wonder, Marion Band is doing something similar to that, but they're using just a video on YouTube, like you said, and the video on YouTube is the conductor. So they're having the conductor as the video that everybody's playing along with, and each person's still not live though. Each person's recording themselves playing with the conductor on YouTube, and then they're mixing it all together. They're doing that this week, so I'm kind of waiting to see how that turns out. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I think that would be cool.
Ours is not mixed together, but it does have the music that we're supposed to play, and we play it together.
Yeah.
And then he's able to get to certain sections so that we can go back to a certain section that he thinks we're going to have trouble on, so we can repeat it. Or he'll even have certain instruments play a section and then go on, and then all of us play it. It really simulates what a normal practice would be like.
So do you guys have your mics on when you do that, or do you just turn your mics off and just listen?
He turns the mics off. All we hear is the music, but we see him conducting to that music. We listen to the music and play.
Okay. I mean, we could certainly try something like that.
Not ideal, but it's something you could do immediately if you had music to listen to.
You guys want to try to find some music like that?
Well, I used to post things on Facebook, different groups and songs, and I could look and see if I could find some things that we play, some rendition, any rendition of things that we play.
Well, preferably the same arrangement because, so we can play along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I don't know how easy it would be to find the same arrangements.
It would probably not be easy, but I bet it could be done. I bet there's somebody out there playing some of the arrangements that we're doing.
But you're right.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Sean, how much hardware and skill did it take, for example, for that band to put together what they put together, that video that Joel sent around? That was very much more involved than anything we're talking about here.
I don't think I saw that. Joel, when did you send that?
Joel, you're muted.
Joel, you're muted.
I kind of enjoy this.
Joel, you're on mute.
I never sounded so well. So it was a wonderful explanation. Really quick. So I'm sorry if you didn't get it. It was my fault. I probably skipped you. And I apologize. It was basically in every square was a different instrument of the band. And in the middle, or where Sean would be, was Chad Lefkowitz, and he's a tenor sax player. It was a big band arrangement, and they all played, and you got to see everybody playing. How they put it all together, I don't know. But
Carefully.
I like where we're going. I like all the ideas said here. I just didn't want to talk because I just want to keep it going in this direction. I'd love to record with everybody or have something to play along. I'm muting myself. I'm done.
No, I think that's a great idea. I definitely think that's a great idea. All of the above. So there's two options. We can do like a little rehearsal like that, like you're talking about, where you guys, you'll hear yourself playing and you'll hear a recording, and everybody will be playing along, but you won't hear each other playing because their microphones will be off. And that will still simulate, like you said, the rehearsal for us, which I think that's a great idea. We can also, we could, in addition to that, do something where we all record ourselves playing our parts to, either a click track or a track of music or a metronome or something like this. And then we can all mix it together so that we can actually virtually perform it, like you saw that recording that Joel's talking about. So people could watch it and it looks like we're all playing together at the same time, but really we're not. We all do it separately and then just mix it together. We could do.
Is she gone?
She's
Fucked
gone.
up.
She's frozen.
Again, it happens.
And while she's frozen, let me ask, what's everybody doing for Pesach this year? Just curious.
At home?
I have no plan.
Seder at home.
Boy,
There's a CBS Seder on Friday night that's free. Anybody can do it. And actually, we're going to be part of it.
What Seder?
Congregation Beth Shalom is Rabbi Justin's going to run a Seder. It's a 30-minute Seder, and it's something. And it doesn't make any difference who you are, if you belong or not. We welcome everybody across the country. Anybody.
I'm just making matzo ball soup and some potato pancakes and saying hamotzi, and that's about it for us.
I think at the Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation's website, there's a link to some YouTube videos. There are 5 or 6 of them, and I think they're short segments that you can play during a Seder at home.
Yes,
Just
there
because,
are. And a lot of my friends are doing virtual Seders. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll make Jacob say the questions and serve wine to everybody except for the 12-year-old, and be happy. Or even give the 12-year-old some wine too. We'll see what happens with that.
I want to ask Rick something else. How is your practice going in the hospital? Do you see a lot of sick kids that have the coronavirus?
Haven't seen any. It's not very common at all that kids get sick enough to need intensive care. My group decided we would work like 13-hour shifts 7 days in a row, and then have 2 weeks off to see if we develop symptoms within the next 2 weeks. So my week was week before last. And I had 2 kids, one of which we seriously thought had coronavirus, and it turns out he didn't. And even though he had very bad pneumonia and I had to put him on a ventilator, he was home 4 days later.
Oh, gee.
And he was negative for coronavirus and everything else. I have a suspicion his lungs may have been bad because he was vaping and wouldn't admit it. Because I've seen that once before. I don't know what else would get better that fast. One baby that had pneumonia that turned out it was from 3 other things, but not coronavirus. And one kid turned out to have a bacterial pneumonia. So I haven't seen any bad patients. And there's talk that if the hospital gets real busy, they might put adult patients in our unit, but I'm getting permission not to expose myself to them since they don't want anybody over 65 taking care of these patients. And I'm going to be 64 on Friday. I'm overweight. I'm on high blood pressure. My doctor says I shouldn't do it.
Happy birthday, anyway.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I don't think you're overweight. Did you say you were overweight?
Oh, yeah. I'm morbidly obese, but I need to lose at least 20, 25 pounds. in addition to the 10 pounds I've lost in the last 4 weeks, not going to restaurants.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, the extra delivery fees for groceries are worth it when you think, oh, we're not spending all this money going to restaurants, 4 lunches a week and 2 or 3 dinners a week. And boy, that adds
Yep.
up.
My dinner
Yeah.
was something that I put away in there in 2018. It was some sort of quiche.
Oh, and
What?
MRE?
The night we're
No, we're not in the military.
What?
Like Sean's back, I think.
Oh yeah, I've been back.
Yeah. So, well, this has been very pleasant.
Well, you guys want to look for some videos that are some of our arrangements?
Yeah.
Some of the songs
Sure.
that you like to play, and yeah,
Yeah,
if you
I will.
find one that you think's the same arrangement, why don't you send it to all of us and we'll go from there.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like a good
Before
plan.
we sign off, I have a great COVID joke somebody sent me.
Okay.
Okay.
There are COVID.
Says-
There are COVID jokes.
Yeah. So here, this is a quick one. It said, I've been washing my hands so much and using so much sanitizer that when I pee, I clean my toilet.
I think my wife made that one up because she told me that one several days ago.
I
Bada boom.
Hey, I've got a good
Mel
one.
Brooks would be proud.
I am.
I've got a good one. Does anybody
Sharon.
know if we're allowed to take showers yet, or should we just keep washing our hands?
I showered before we started practicing here. For practice, I showered for the practice.
All right. Well, we're still going to do the class next week about improvisation and
Okay.
using scales and chords in your improvisation. So
Very
make
good.
sure you practice your scales and chords for next week. And we will additionally try to find something we can do as far as rehearsal/performance. And like I said, a combination of both of those things I think we could do.
Okay.
We
Sure.
could rehearse it and then we could record it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sean, thank you. And could you
Thank
just
you.
answer this?
Thank you very much.
Could you
Bye.
send
Sean.
your notes from today?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to do that. I'll share it with you guys.
I'll post them prominently next to my music stand.
Okay, cool. And I think I'll add that little bit about the mindless practicing and the practicing before you go to sleep. I'll put both of those things in there too.
Okay.
Very
I'm sure
good.
my neighbors will
Thank you.
love that.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great to see you.
Thank you,
Thanks
Sean.
for stopping in.
Nice to see you.
See you all later.
Take
Bye,
care.
everybody.
Good
All
seeing
right.
you.
Bye.
Bye.